I don't like to introduce people when I interview them because I feel like I don't have the right to do that, because I think you have the right to do that. You have the right to say who you are and what you do and how you want to describe yourself. How would you do that to someone who doesn't know you?
Well, I mean,
In both
I would,
characters.
yeah,
In both.
I would say that I am Joshua or Peaches is a kid who many years ago grew up loving movies, wanting to be an entertainer, wanting to make movies, wanting to tell stories, was interested in theater, was doing haunted attractions at a young age, had a haunted house, was making little movies on camcorders, was shocking people, had discovered John Waters growing up in Maryland, had discovered the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Elvira, and that kid that I just described is really me now as an adult who's
Yeah.
luckily been able to, with the help of many creative collaborators and brilliant artistic friends, I've been able to like turn all those things, those dreams into like a little reality for myself where I get to perform and I get to be Peaches and I get to make movies and and none of it's, none of it's massively successful. I exist in a niche within a niche within a niche. So sometimes people will say to me, "Oh my God, you're Peaches Christ, you're famous." And I'm like, I'm famous to a very small number of people in the world of fame. And that is beautiful.
So Death Becomes Her came out in 1992. It had its own storyline. How's that going to differ from the storyline that you wrote? And if you could maybe speak to maybe a crowd that's not familiar with what you do,
Sure.
maybe kind of concisely put it together so it's comprehensive.
Most of the Peaches Christ productions kind of operate in this universe where I take the main story and the characters and the things that we love and celebrate about these movies, and I take those things and I mash them up in this sort of queer universe where our drag characters are now embodying these people in this storyline. So it is Jinkx playing, the Meryl Streep character. It is Dela playing the Goldie Hawn character, but they are playing them as Jinkx and Dela. So
I was looking at the preview to the original film, and it was being described by the actors as by Goldie and Meryl as black magic, sex, greed, wanting to be the most beautiful. And they laughed and said, and it's a comedy. What do you think you've added to it in just a couple of words?
I think that's all very, very true. And I think that what is underlying Death Becomes Her is a real nod to camp and queerness. And so with our show, it's less under the surface, it's more overt. And not to go to a darker place, but I do think that because I've been living with Death Becomes Her for so many years now, and we've performed it so many times. I mean, we did it in the UK like 25 times, and I like love this movie. One of the things that occurs to me is like these are women who are dealing with extreme amounts of ageism in their community of Hollywood and being female celebrities, actors, performers, writers, and the connection there is sadly truly with gay men in terms of the struggles we have growing older. There's a lot of ageism in our community. There's a lot of value put in our looks,
Yeah.
and so I think what we do with Drag Becomes Her is we just sort of rip that band-aid off and we laugh at it all and make fun of it. And queers are really good at laughing through the pain.
And queer is not a bad word.
Oh no. So it's very absurd. It's very much I unapologetically say, hey, we queer people deserve to have ourselves represented in these stories. And so we love this stuff so much. We've supported this stuff so much. So here, I'm going to unapologetically, in a very silly, stupid way, present this show that is just all these things that we love.
This was a box office hit, even though it didn't get great reviews, which is typical. I usually love movies that get horrible reviews, to be honest. If they're too popular, I think I probably won't like it.
Yeah.
it brought in like $150 million back in 1992. And you have already been, I've already proven to be successful in the sales of your tickets for this show. What kind of reception does your heart have when you realize that people are getting it and enjoying it? I mean, does that must be really rewarding for you, right?
I mean, it definitely takes out a lot of the anxiety I have as a producer.
Sure.
A lot of people forget that, like, when we produce these events, we're often as only as successful as our last event because I don't have investors backing me. Like this is me putting my money up to put on a show the old-fashioned way.
I'm thoroughly impressed. I love talking to people that have a passion for something, and it's so clear that you have a passion for what you're doing, and it excites me. It makes me feel like this abundant life and vitality and excitement to just be in the space of your ideas and thoughts. So that's super, super cool. And the cast is amazing. To have Jinkx and Bendelacreme especially, what do you recognize as their big strengths? What do you think those big characteristics are that they contribute to make your productions so incredible?
Working with Jinkx and Dela, I mean, I just think, I'm so lucky because I get to exist in this drag world where honestly, I mean, especially in this show, I'm on stage for 2 scenes. Like I really got to create a show where I get to sit off stage and just giggle like a kid, watching 2 of the most talented drag performers, alive do their thing, and so it tickles me to get to create jokes and scenes and dance numbers. I mean, Dela is a genius dancer. They're both, and Jinkx is a singer, is an incredible singer. And then they have genius comedic timing. So it's like watching Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn. I mean, it's the closest we'll get, in the drag world.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how your mind works, but the movies you pick are in line with the movies that I would pick. And I've gone back and looked at all of these ones that you've recreated and done these incredible parodies with. How do you select these? Do you go with your gut? Is there any type of a format, or like how do you choose?
Does this movie have a cult of fans that are obsessed with it? And
Yeah.
if it does have a cult of fans, do I like it or do I understand it? I remember once Jinkx coming to me and saying, "You got to do Hocus Pocus. You got to do Hocus Pocus." And I was like, "Oh, that weird Bette Midler movie that like came out like, I was in my 20s when that came out. I was too old for it. So I never
Right.
saw it, and then I watched it and I watched it through Jinx's eyes, That's another show I did with Jinkx and Dela, actually, the first time I did it.
Further.
Yeah.
I have to show you. This is my one personal contribution to this interview. The rest is all about you. Okay.
Okay.
We did it too. My friends and I did Hocus Pocus. Give me some feedback. I'm the Bet character.
Oh, you did great.
We won Badlands in Sacramento.
What year was that?
No, they gave us $50 and a kick out the door. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, but we've won that costume multiple times, and it was kind of like before the resurgence happened. What, 5 years ago or 6 years ago or something?
So, yeah, as you know, our show was done even longer ago than that.
Yeah.
So it was that thing where I am proud to have helped bring Hocus Pocus back into this sort of, but I will say this, I can't take credit for it. It was really young people like Jinkx and Dela pointing me in the direction. And when I watched it, as a Gen Xer who was older, I thought, oh my God, this is their version of Elvira. Like they grew up with these incredible women who all 3 are basically queer people because they are friends with so many gay men, all 3 of them, right? And now that these 3 women are doing drag in this movie, and performing like the most absurd drag characters. And I watched it and I was like, oh, I totally get it. So once I get it, then there are movies that people suggest and they love them and there's a cult and I'll watch it, and I won't name any movies because I always get, in trouble. But if I don't get it, if I don't connect with it, then I won't do the show. I have to love it.
Right.
Yeah.
So name off a few that you have done. You've done so many, but I know you've done Mommy Queerest, and keep going.
Mommy Queerest. Whatever Happened to Bianca Del Rio, Legally Black, starring
Uh-huh.
Bob the Drag Queen,
Sure.
Death Drop Gorgeous,
Uh-huh.
Cheetle Juice, Trixie and Katya's high school reunion.
Can't believe I missed that one. I've seen
um,
one of yours,
which one?
Grey Gardens.
Ah, yes. Okay. Return
I
to Grey
didn't want to
Gardens.
blink. I didn't want to blink and miss a second of it. It was amazing.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Amazing.
Thank you. That was that actually was one that is a cult movie in the truest sense of cult. And I saw it at the Castro Theatre when I moved here in 1996, and I had not seen it before. A lot of the film school that I got was moving to San Francisco and attending screenings with older gay men at the Castro Theatre, and them saying like, you need to go see All About Eve. You need to go see The Women. You need to go see Grey Gardens. What's Grey Gardens? We'll go see it. You're not going to believe it, right? And I always wanted to do Grey Gardens, but I never wanted it to feel like I was making fun of the Eddies, because it's too easy to make fun of them, and that's not who I am.
It's
I connect with them. I'm
I
a
do.
weirdo.
I do.
I
Mhm.
love them. I identify with them. So it was when I saw Jinkx do Edie on Drag
Yeah.
Race where I was like, oh, now we could do it, because now I know I have an actor who could
Right.
channel both the love, the joy, the tribute that it needs to be.
Right. Yeah. They're nuts, and it's easy to laugh at them. But
Yeah.
if that's all you're getting out of it, you miss the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
They're
I see
outcasts.
myself in them. And when I saw
Yeah.
Jinkx do Grey Gardens on
Yeah.
TV, I thought this just emphasizes more and more that I love Jinkx Monsoon.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like a watershed moment, was like, that season, what was that, season 5, she's definitely so great in the Snatch Game as Little Edie, but what's interesting is she won the season, but as her drag mother, I would say that only a small, like a tenth of her talent was showcased, in that season, which is why this new season that she's currently on has been so satisfying, because the world gets to see so much more of what she can do.
You sound
She's
just
really
like a
brilliant.
mother. Sound
I
just like a
am,
mother.
and I'm a proud mother.
I can tell.
Yeah,
She has demolished the competition.
yeah.
And if there's any God out there on any level in the universe, she's won this.
I mean, I think it'd be strange at this point, just watching it. I'm like, if she doesn't win, I think people will there might be riots.
It's like the most harmonious group I've ever seen and respectable group I've ever seen. I don't know how important that is to a lot of people. I don't know. I question that daily, but they're
Yeah.
respectable people, and they're kind, loving people towards one another. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest benefits to even watching this season, besides seeing all the great talent,
Well,
is that
everyone assumes that American audiences don't want that kind of television. And it's like, actually, have you looked at the ratings in America for the Great British Bake Off? Like, we want nice people being nice to each other. Like, we yearn for that. To me, this season of Drag Race is way truer to my experience as a drag performer than the alternative. Like, I did not grow up in a drag world where we were screaming at each other or competitive in a way that was mean-spirited. I know that exists, but that just hasn't been, myself and whatever the legends are, considered, basically us older queens, Coco, Varla, Jackie, Bianca, Latrice, queens that have been around a long time, that span decades. We tend to help each other. We tend to like really lift each other up, and like have it was us against the world. We weren't at each other's throats. We were like helping our sisters. And so I would much rather see a drag show, that celebrates, community in that
yeah,
way. Yeah.
that's really cool, because I can get really anxious talking to a drag queen
Yeah.
because of that misconception of the personality
Yeah.
or their character or whatever. And I was getting anxious talking to you because I thought this person has accomplished so much this attitude could fill a room or fill up a city. I was getting anxious, but I'm not.
No.
What is your daily motivation? Is there something that ignites your fire?
So I don't use drugs or alcohol anymore. You know, I gave that all up in 2002, and so I really get like a natural sort of thrill or high from performing. I like truly, like to the point where I'm often sort of depressed after a big successful show. You know, there is actually an adrenaline that rushes through me like a drug. The fact that I love creative collaboration. I really love connecting with people through building something together. And I'm often in the position, for whatever reason, to sort of lead the way. You know, I've been lucky enough to have the ability to kind of be a leader when it comes to like, okay, let's all do this, and then gathering the troops and sort of introducing people and getting people to work together and sort of creating a creative family. That's been really probably the thing more than anything that motivates me, is that community.
I want you to not be as humble if you can try this. And tell me what you're really proud of in regards to your accomplishments with your career.
The re-release of my feature film All About Evil, which was put out by Severin on Blu-ray this past June, and it was now it's streaming on Shudder. And for me, that was a big deal, like making that movie. And I would often find the process of watching it sort of stressful, because I would focus on like, oh, you should have done this, or you like, why did you do, I was really beating myself up over the things I didn't like. And now with so much time having passed, I was able to rewatch and enjoy these screenings. And I felt really proud of it, like deeply, deeply proud of this film. And I was really able to go like, wow, I really enjoy it. And it's really aged well. And it's finding this new audience now, because, not a lot of movies that have been around for a decade get a re-release. I mean, it doesn't hurt that the star, Natasha Lyonne, has become, massively famous.
Right.
So that helps for sure.
What is your relationship like with the Castro Theater?
The reason I'm at the Castro, the reason we even ever started to do theater at the Castro is because it is a beloved queer movie palace that's just so magical.
Yeah. Finish this with one word.
Okay.
Jinkx Monsoon is going to be
the winner. Oh. Triumphant.
Bendelacreme is going to be
hilarious.
And Peaches Christ is going to be
wicked.
Fabulous.